the business podcast with Davis Blank Furness, Glossop's chosen solicitors since 1877.
So it's the Glossop and High Peak Business Awards. Dave, what an evening. We've met so many talented businesses tonight. Small, medium, large, multiple winners. The list goes on.
They were all winners. To be in there tonight, Mark, was terrific. And to meet the business family from Glossop was just amazing. And that's what it should be. There should be all the networking and recognition for all the great stuff that happens and goes about.
I'm delighted to join the studio by Anya, who's from Norris Floristry in Glossop. Anya, great to see you.
Hi, it's great to see you too. I'm very good. It's been a great evening so far.
It's brilliant. This is the first one we've done. What do you think?
I really love it. It's good. It's the first one we've been to, obviously. No, it's been a really good night. I think the venue is great. Food was nice. There's plenty of wine. So yeah, we're having a good time.
I've noticed you brought a glass in, but none for us.
Well, I'm sorry, it's about priorities.
It's the right place. Let's be honest. We don't need that.
You're at work.
Tell us what your business is all about.
So our business, or my business, is it's a florist at the end of the day. So I trained as a florist back home, which is in southern Germany, many years ago. Too many years, I'd like to, count.
You'd like to remember?
Say, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's like an apprenticeship scheme. Well, you would train as a florist through an apprenticeship scheme, and it's a very different sort of setup to an apprenticeship scheme over here.
Yes.
So it's a 3-year apprenticeship, full time. You go to college. It's very in depth in comparison, and you emerge at the end. In my case, as a fully qualified florist, and so I did that, and then I got sidetracked into a corporate career working for a British company. In the leisure and tourism industry in the UK.
In the UK, you came over to the UK.
I came over to the UK, so I started working for them in Germany, and then they moved me to the UK, and then I spent 15 years traveling the UK and continental Europe, and then somewhere along the way I met my husband, who's from Wigan, and then in 2019 I was made redundant. And I really struggled. It really sort of pulled the rug from under my feet, and I was diagnosed with severe depression and a burnout.
Right.
And I had to take some time out, which I was very fortunate to be able to do. And I basically ended up not working for most of a year and just focusing on my own recovery and I guess trying to work out what I'm going to do with my life and who I am and trying to sort of get rid of the institutionalized state of my head that you have once you've been in a corporate role for 15 years. And then when it was time to rejoin the working world, COVID arrived, and of course that scuppered everybody's plans. And I think in the background, I always had this thought and this sort of dream and hope that eventually I would go back to floristry, because I'm a very creative person. I love using the medium of floriculture and horticulture to tell a story. And I always kind of knew that I didn't want to I don't just want to sell flowers. It's not just about that. Mm-hmm. So this sort of flame was sort of pootling away in the back of my head, and then it got to a point where I had to work. And as much as I'd like to say I don't have to, but eventually there's a point where you have to. And
it's good for you at the end of the day.
It's good for you.
Yes,
no, and actually,
absolutely.
It's a really good point. Like I needed a routine, and I needed something to focus on, and I needed something to pour my energy into, and something I get excited about, and have a plan and a goal. Because if you don't have a goal, it's I don't know about you, but I really struggled with that. So part of my recovery, I guess, was dabbling again in floristry and the sort of creative medium that is flowers. And in this whole sort of process, I discovered that my German qualification was quite senior in the UK.
Yeah.
And my background, or the way I was brought up, is about mastery of a subject. It's something that was ingrained in me and that was instilled in me. So I decided to explore what that would look like in the UK if I was to top up my qualification with a craftsmanship master qualification. So I started working from home, from the kitchen table, just making bouquets. I remember I spent my last 150 quid on some flowers. Wow. and my husband took me to the flower market and we bought some flowers and I made some bouquets, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like muscle memory, I can still do it. and I put them on social media and I sold them within an hour. And then the following week we did it again and I sold out within an hour, and I did it again and again and again. And after 4 weeks I was like, no, my parents would be really unhappy if I do this illegal selling of stuff. So I registered as a sole trader, and I decided that I'm just going to go for it. Like, it's either all in or it's nothing. So I then started, as we would say in Germany, polishing doorknobs, basically begging for business. Do you want to sell? Do you want to buy flowers? Do you want this bouquet?
I get it. I get it. It's a funny phrase. We don't use
Hustling.
that, absolutely,
No, it's
but
a really odd phrase,
yes.
but it's basically what you do, and that's what I did, and we had a really good response, and it's small. It was small, like, you know, no big money, small. And I did it week after week after week, and then the first person came, do you want, you know, would you do my wedding? And then the next person came, like, you know, my mum died and this, and it just started.
Is this almost word of mouth?
But all word of mouth, all social media, all word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm really lucky. My husband is in marketing, so he built me a website, and you know, we did a studio. We thought about do we buy a new shed? Do we? Like, where are we going to work?
All these problems.
All these
success,
problems, you know,
absolutely.
and very little money coming in and all of that. So then I decided that I'm going to top and bottom my education, and I went to the Sheffield Floristry School, where they were offering a level 5 master qualification in professional floristry. And I went and I was all prepared with my paperwork, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to have an interview, and I wonder whether they will take me. And they basically signed me up there and then. So I started part-time 2 years, my master qualification, simultaneously building the business. We outgrew the kitchen pretty quickly.
I was going to say, where does this take you to?
Oh,
Where does it take you to right now?
It struggled. So we then rented a studio space in Whaley-Bridge in an old candle factory, and that worked for a short period of time. But whilst we were there, we were invited to compete at, or I was invited to compete at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show in London in 2022. We just turned up. So I had this idea of a design. I was telling a story, and we medalled with a silver gold medal. And then we went away, and more weddings came, and then, you know, the business sort of grew and then didn't. And then I was like, well, the studio doesn't work anymore. I need a shop. And I was like, I don't want a shop. I really do not want a shop. The last thing I want is a shop. But the business and what we create, or what I create, what my team creates, is about emotions, and it's about telling stories, and it's something people need to see and smell and feel, and they need to have that personal interaction, and you cannot do that in a studio. Sure. So then I got scared because, you know, renting a shop's really expensive, and then I was sort of worried about doing that. And then we got a phone call late December 2022, and I was asked whether I would create the funeral flowers for Dame Vivienne Westwood's funeral.
It's incredible. Was that because of the connection with round here?
Yes, absolutely, yes and no. There was a number of connections, and I'd also like to say that it was on merit, aside from the connections.
The locality,
it was a big point. So, you know, the family obviously wanted to use local suppliers. There was a number of localish suppliers in Manchester, and you know, big established companies that could have done that job. But I feel really privileged that, you know, we were asked to take on this commission, and I'm not too proud to say that it was a life-changing commission. And it enabled me to take my business a significant step forward. And I decided to rent a shop and kit out the shop and take on staff. So this sort of really accelerated the growth of the business from pretty much a stagnant point and just me driving it to actually being a business. So I identified some premises.
And where the premises are where?
So this is on High Street West in Glossop.
Okay.
It's a small corner shop. It's a really quintessentially English country shop. But it's got a great atmosphere. It's a really wonderful, creative, warm space. It was really important to me for it to be a hub for people to come, because flowers are a really emotional subject. Anybody can sell flowers. You don't have to be a florist. You don't have to be particularly good at flowers. Anybody can sell flowers. But if you sell floristry, you've got to be really very good.
Sure,
And you've got to be not just good with flowers, you've got to be good with people. And the feedback we get is that the space is really very special, and it's this very calm, very beautiful space that people feel they are able to open up in, and they can, you know, share their stories in it, and you know, alongside all of that, buy some flowers.
So all that backstory gets you to where you are right here and now, just giving us exactly where you've come from and exactly the business that you've got there that is obviously well respected around Glossop, and I think it's a fantastic story.
I think there's a lot more to this.
There's
a lot more to this. Congratulations
Thank you.
on getting this
Thank you.
recognition anyway.
Thank you.
And you've got a lovely, beautiful shop in Glossop, and let's
Thank
hope it remains there for a long, long time to come.
I hope so too. Thank
And
you.
it's been lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
The Business Podcast with Davis Blank Furness, Glossop's chosen solicitors since 1877.